Let's talk some more about Andrew Tate. You interviewed some teenage boys about him, and your own boys watched some of it, right? So
let me finish. We bookmarked, and it will segue into the teenage boys I interviewed. Okay,
yes.
So you said, you know, basically what he does, like he's like the sledgehammer version to our filigree silver nutcracker, right?
Right.
I don't know, something
That'll
like
do.
that. It's a terrible analogy.
That's okay.
We'll go with that. Okay, he takes quite a blunt approach to things like you can't trust the government, this crisis is overblown, it's all about control, break through the matrix, be successful, overcome depression. It's all really good stuff, actually. He's not appealing to a tiny audience. You've got to bear in mind he had 4.7 million followers on Instagram. I don't know a teenage boy who doesn't follow Andrew Tate. My own sons have been showing me videos for ages. Now, any parent knows that a high-profile cancellation isn't going to fix a culture of misogyny overnight. Forget it. It's an ongoing process of conversation, exploratory conversation, gentle conversation, questions. So he's actually said a lot of things that my sons have found inspiring and I consider to be positive. He also says things that I consider to be less positive. I think his brother might run a webcam business. That's led into a big conversation about prostitution, about webcam work, about politics, about power. It's been useful.
But do you worry that his influence on your children, for example, would include the fact that they might then take up his views of women? Because there's no doubt that he is very disparaging and dismissive of women, right? And, you know, obviously as parents it's our job to make sure that doesn't sit with their points of view, but it can do.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, people really underestimate kids all the time. I go to schools, I do school talks. I think this generation are incredibly media savvy, media literate. They're intelligent. We shouldn't underestimate them. My sons think that some of what he says is a comic persona, some of what he says is outrageous, but they're not stupid. Kids aren't stupid. They take the good with the bad. Like I said to you, just because he's not on Instagram anymore, that doesn't mean that every teenage boy in the country can't go onto Pornhub and see women being slapped and called the worst names under the sun and treated like crap.
But maybe that's not the bit they're taking from it. Maybe they're taking that as part of the package.
They take it as part of the package.
And they'll find him wherever he is. I mean, is he findable now?
Of course, he's on Rumble. And when he moved to Rumble, Rumble's daily traffic went up nearly 50%.
Right.
The thing is, what it will do is constrain his reach. Whereas before he could reach millions of people through mainstream social media, his reach will likely be in the tens and the hundreds of thousands. The thing is,
so will he make less money then?
Probably, ultimately, but he's already extremely wealthy. The thing is, you can take him off social media. You have not made the world a safer place. What you've done is, in effect, radicalise a generation of young men. They were not radicalised by his message. I tell you what they're radicalised by. They are incredibly cynical about why he's been removed from social media. I interviewed several teenage boys about this. What they think is that Andrew Tate was too powerful, and they recognise that governments have people removed from the internet they don't like, and they are not wrong, because we know there are misinformation units. Nadine Dorries even said in the House of Commons that the government rings up the tech platforms and asks them to take content down. They know that this is how this happens. So what you have is a generation of young men who know that there's been a blow against free speech. Andrew Tate's messages don't trust the government. All this will do is reinforce that. That hunger they have for a hero won't go anywhere. They still need heroes. This disenfranchised generation of young men hasn't learned anything positive about his deplatforming. What he needed was sunlight. What he needed was debate. He needed his worst ideas challenged. He didn't need to be martyred.
But
and if you look at his new
videos,
he says he's been martyred. So the hundreds of thousands, about 500,000 people who'll go and watch that video, hear him saying he's been martyred.
And all of the things that he argues for, however, in the way of the modern sort of media that we now have, debate isn't really a thing, is it? You know, Russell Brand makes videos. It's basically Russell Brand talking to a camera in the same way that I presume Andrew Tate does that. They're not really interested in debate. They're interested in influencing people. So with debate, you don't do that, because with debate, you make people think. What he's doing is making people just believe what he tells them somehow.
Maybe. I didn't speak to anyone who seems to fall under his incel manosphere sway. That's not the impression I got, although there might be people that happens to. But what I'm saying is there's plenty of other content out there that does that. You can go onto almost any social media platform and you can find a supposedly progressive video telling a gender non-conforming young girl it's okay to cut her breasts off. That apparently is not misogynistic. It is mind-boggling. You can go on any social media platform, you can look up J.K. Rowling, and you will find exhortations to burn, mutilate, kill and humiliate women, standing up for women. There is plenty of misogyny on the internet. In fact, I'd say the internet is awash with misogyny. Like I said, I don't think he touched the sides. The fact is he was powerful, he had an anti-government message, and young men take that away from his deplatforming.
Because the thing is, by deplatforming people, as you've said before, it doesn't change anything. Donald Trump lost his Twitter account. He's probably more popular in America now than he ever was. Because the people who like him will continue to like him. You're not going to stop people liking someone just because they're not on Twitter, are you?
Absolutely. And I think what's really disappointing, actually, is that we've seen journalists race to describe him as a misogynist and really demean the young men who looked up to him. You know, they describe them as lonely or frustrated or basking in their white privilege. They're talking about millions of young men in this country.
Who might be all of those things.
And they just don't get it. They don't get why they looked up to him.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of a really snobbish, elite dismissal of young men that I find really repugnant.
Yeah, particularly...
We have to ask why they need heroes and where the heroes are. Where are the men? Where are the heroes?
Because I think we've lived now with maybe 2 generations, and these are people younger than me on both counts, of people who are not like the men that they grew up with or not like their fathers. So we've sort of morphed into, and I think it's a particularly city-driven thing where people have got nice middle-class jobs and nice middle-class lives, and they're nice to everybody, and they're not, in my father's words, very heroic figures, right? He always used to say to me, men are heroes. That's what they do, and that's what their instincts should be, right? And, you know, you should always be running into a burning building to save a woman from a fire. That's what men are for, and that's what he said to me, right? And I don't disagree with that. But I think a lot of men now don't know what their role is in society. They don't know where they should be standing. They don't know whether they should get up and give a seat to a woman on the tube or hold a door open for her. They don't know what to do.
Well, there's a hell of a lot of confusion about what a man even is.